everybody? I'm Pollo Del Mar. This is obviously Chelsea Green. You know Chelsea. And we are here for the Wrestling Inc. exclusive interview prior to NWA Empower, which is coming on Saturday, August 28th. And that's where actually you and I are going to meet for the very first time. I'm so excited about this. Like, of course, I have to say that you're going to be in the 10-woman invitational with my client, Miss Jamie Senegal. And so we may not meet on the friendliest of terms initially.
You know what? Or we might, because Jamie is very much a diva and we can relate on that front.
Yes, I agree with that. And of course, I'm here in California. I'm the manager of Champions, so I always am looking for new amazing clients.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
So, I've heard of some, I'm just going to start about the most recent thing that has been in the news with you. And like, we've heard some pretty interesting stories about people, exiting WWE, but I've never heard of anybody actually having to fight for the rights to their actual name. So luckily that was resolved in your favor, but I'm just curious, what goes through the mind of an individual when you're like, well, that's literally who I am. That's like on my ID, and you're going into a potential court battle. So I'm curious.
That was kind of the scary part of it all, is that I guess because I came out of WWE, I know what they're capable of. I know that all it takes to win a legal battle really is money. And they have a lot of that.
A lot.
It was really scary. Right. Like much more than I confront. So I was really like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because I know if they choose to fight this, it's a very, very easy fight for them and a very uphill battle for me. So I knew it wasn't going to be good. And that's why I'm so thankful that they just like washed their hands of it and kind of let me have the win, essentially, is what they did, because they didn't have to. They could have kept going with that, and it would have only been a couple weeks worth of legal fees, and then I wouldn't be able to do it. So it was very, it was scary and it was eye-opening. I have a great lawyer, but he was like, Chelsea, like, all we can do is put out the initial, like, hey, we're going to fight this. And then after that, there's nothing else we can do. Like it is totally in their hands how long they want to kind of fight for this name for.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing, I think, when we've seen people fighting for a character or, like that kind of identity. And we understand because they're a corporation, they create that, they brand it, whatever. But in this situation, it was, that's what you sign on your checks. It's on your ID, right? And it's
right. And that's my whole business. And that's like everything I've worked for 7 years. I can't even imagine if that was taken away from me. I've had I had an indie name, and then I had a name at Impact, and then I had a name at Lucha Underground. That's different. I don't connect to that. I'm not trying to build an entire empire off of those names. I realize that that's a character name and that they own that, and I'm totally okay with it. But this was really scary because if they won, I cannot do anything. I think in the entertainment industry, it might have just been wrestling. Either way, even my podcast, they would have fought for that too, right? So it's literally every single thing that I've ever worked for. And a lot of people gave me, I mean, to be fair, Twitter hates me, but like a lot of people gave me, I've gotten over that, but a lot of people gave me grief, like, you signed it away, this and that. No shit. It's WWE. When they ask you to do something, you do it. This was my livelihood. It's either I make X amount of money, or you know what I mean? Or I keep my name and I'm on the indies. Like that's silly. Of course I gave them the rights to use my name. That is not giving them the rights to use my name once I leave the company.
Right. Yeah. And again, I think that this is a situation where had they worked really hard to brand you as something, you know what I mean? Like that would have been different, but you, in a lot of ways, sort of played yourself a little bit. I'm sure with tweaks or whatever, and it really is your name. I think that for people on social media, it's really easy perhaps to have an opinion about you as a person or you as an entertainer. And I'm not going to lie. I've had a few of my own opinions where I was like, this woman's offer, whatever, gourd, whatever. But, that's when we are being whatever, but we're talking about your actual name. You know what I mean? Like
my name, my brand, my whole like work, everything. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think that for a lot of individuals, and I'm sure that you've experienced this, like when they talk to somebody like you, or when they talk about someone like you, or when they talk about anybody in the wrestling industry, it's like, well, you agreed to this and but I think there is that thing that we all have. It's like the dream, you know what I mean? So you want to risk everything for the dream. And there's also that kind of thing. I equated it to like domestic violence relationships where it's like, well, I know that they did that to their ex, but they would never do that to me. And
It's
then you get there and
100%
it turns
like
on you.
that. And it's also like that Stockholm syndrome where you go and you forget all the terrible and you just remember the positive and you're like, nah, I want that life back. It's always like that, I think, when there's money involved. I think that's when it muddies the waters. And I can admit that too. You get really money hungry once you get a taste of that good life.
So Mickey James just texted me. Oh my God, that's Mickey James right now. Mickey, calm down. Mickey, calm down. We're talking about you, girl.
So, I love her so much.
Right? Is she not the most amazing person?
She's the best, and she totally lets me stalk or text her, and I love it.
So the person who I've gotten to do that with lately, I'm going to share with you, is Taryn Terrell.
Oh, she's amazing.
Yeah. So
I love it.
So, okay, this gagged me. You made international, I'm not talking like wrestling headlines. I'm talking about like the gossip rags in the UK because you don't wear underwear.
I keep seeing more and more articles about this. I just am dying over the fact that like some of the ridiculous stories I tell on my podcast are like being picked up by things outside of wrestling. Yeah. Like I can't be the only person who likes to go commando in this world, but really people are acting like it.
Well, I mean, it was like wrestling star Chelsea Green refuses to wear underwear. And I was like, this is a headline. So
it's so ridiculous, but I mean, I love it. And look, I don't wear underwear.
I mean, hello. It got you a hot boyfriend. So
he doesn't complain.
I'm sure he doesn't. And what is he? Always ready. And so are you. And so are you.
Oh my God, I really am. I mean,
yeah, I mean, so I just had to bring that up because I'm like, this is so unrelated, but like, it's just literally everywhere.
Yeah.
So I just mentioned Matt Cardona, of course, and your relationship with him, and you, between the battle for your actual legal name and the fact that you are now working with your partner in a lot of different places, specifically on Impact, it feels like there's like a blurring of the lines between wrestling and reality for you in terms of like a lot of it coming into one place. And I was wondering if you could talk to us about that and also talk about how you actively take steps to make sure that there is that line division between reality and television.
So I'm really lucky because when Matt and I first got together, we probably didn't talk about wrestling for the first 2.5 years of our relationship. We've been together for coming up 5 years now, I think. We really like our relationship was purely based off of date nights and things that we loved outside of the business. Thank God, because now that the lines are kind of blurred, we still have that like boundary and we know when to shut it off. And it never came naturally to us to talk about wrestling. So it's actually kind of a little bit uncomfortable when we do talk about wrestling. Of course, like you're going to talk about your work with anybody that you love. But another thing that I think really helped me is that I already had this weird blurring of the lines when I was Laurel Van Ness, when I was a hot mess, because I always wanted my social media to be me. And then on TV, I was this crazy lunatic hot mess. And I never, unlike a lot of wrestlers, I never let my social media be just that character. I was that character when I was on TV and I put it on social media. And like 2 minutes later, I was posting normal. I very much wanted people to know I am a glorified actor. And I'm playing a character. And at the time when I was a hot mess, I was playing a drunk and I didn't even drink at all. So like the irony of that alone. So I'm used to those blurred lines. It's weird when it's with your partner.
Right.
And it definitely has been this it's a work in progress, because he sometimes, like right now, he is going full heel on Twitter, and sometimes that backlash comes onto me, and I'm not asking for it. I am very much being real me on social media. You know, if I'm a heel on one company, I'll be a bitch there, and if I'm a good guy on that company, I'll be a good guy there. But like, I am who I am on social media,
Right.
and he is purposely blurring those lines, and that's hard. And so we're working on it, but like, our line of communication is just, it's so good. We go to therapy. We're very open and honest with
You guys go
communicating
to
with each
therapy
other
about wrestling?
about life.
Okay.
Like, yeah, about life. Like, we go to therapy together, and it's never about wrestling, but because that line is blurred again, you know, things happen. And so our communication, that's where we just have to stay very open with each other. And sometimes when I don't like something and the line is blurred, I fucking tell him, and I tell him to take it off. But it's hard. It's hard. It's really hard. And it's a weird world. And it's really, I struggle when people don't like me and I feel like I'm giving them the real me. That's weird.
Yeah.
But that's
Well,
social media. That's 2021.
you know, it's interesting to hear you talk about how, like, because of the work he's doing, then you get sort of like blowback about that, right? But that's something that we see so often. We almost never see it like the opposite, where the woman does something and the guy gets the whatever. But I'm thinking about like the Usos and like the DUI, and then all of a sudden Naomi is off of social media because everybody is like being hateful to her.
It's awful. It is awful. And do you know what's funny? I posted yesterday a picture that Matt made me take with two belts where I look naked underneath. And so many people were like, oh, disrespectful to Stacy Keibler. How dare you? You could never this and that. But Hornswoggle posted a similar picture and made a trading card out of it. And do you think that he got any like hate or like, you're disrespecting this and that? No, like, there are just two totally different standards on social media. There's also two totally different ways that people think that they could speak to a male and a female, and it's wild.
Do you know, interestingly enough, I'm trying to remember who it was. Oh, Frankie Renee started, you know, Taya started following me on Instagram because I went on to compliment one of her photos. And as I was scrolling through the comments, it was absolutely disgusting. Like you know, it was like, you know, I've never gone necessarily onto a male wrestler's Instagram post and seen people like, oh, sit on my face, or, you know, it was like, I was aghast and I went off on somebody.
Yeah. It truly is disgusting. I love that you linked up with her, because she is such a supporter of the drag community, and she's one of my best friends. She's like the most amazing human ever, and the hate that she receives is unbelievable. And just the way that people think that they can talk to women on social media, but really it's not women. Like, you know, I don't know how people talk to the Black community, because I'm not Black, but I imagine it's not great. I'm not part of the LGBTQ community, so I don't know how they speak, but I imagine it's not great. But for some reason, just plain old males get no hate. It's so bizarre. It's just, I hate it. Social media is a really toxic place, but here we are, and we kind of have to live with it and embrace it. It's just, you have to learn your coping mechanisms.
Yeah, you have to learn how to navigate it. And I think it's one of the things that you said is like so accurate, because we are accustomed, or we are familiarized with what we see, and we may see it tangentially for other people. But I'll tell you, like, I posted something for NWA Empower this weekend, and some of the comments where one person was like, oh, leave it to Mickie James to turn wrestling into a circus. I was like, honey, it started as a carnival act. So we're like, you know,
what? Oh, we are long past circus.
Yeah. So I with regards to this, and I know people have asked you about it multiple times. I very recently interviewed Renee Young, and she had we talked about her jokingly offering you a support group for what Matt's been doing in GCW and all of that. for real though, I want to hear it in your own voice for this audience. Like, what is it like sitting at home knowing that you're sending your loved one off to go through this?
I really, really wanted to be there. And not because I wanted to see that, but I wanted to be the first person when he came back through the curtain to make sure he was okay, because it's interesting with wrestling, because when we are not hurt, we act hurt. And then when we're really hurt in the ring, you would never know.
Right.
And that's like the really scary thing, right? Is the better you are in the ring, I can't tell if he's really hurt in the ring. I don't know. Like, I just watch like every other fan watches. So I didn't hear from him after that match for like 20 minutes or so. And I'm telling you, it was the longest 20 minutes of my life, waiting to have it confirmed that he's okay. There's no like severed arteries or something, God forbid. But I also, with that being said, I was so excited for him to do this, because I feel like he was put in a box for a long time.
Yeah.
And not even like, not necessarily by WWE, but we all put him in a box too. He's a good looking, pretty white dude, right? Like we all put him in that box of like a boy band member kind of, and he fed into that, and he needed to break down those barriers and to show people that he is so much more than that. And I don't like that it had to be like this and in this match, but he did exactly what he said he was going to do. And that is what he went into that match wanting to prove. And he totally did it. And people are hating him, and it's so good. It's everything he wanted and more. So I really can't say anything. Like, he did what he set out to do. So I'm proud.
When you guys have been together almost 5 years, when you got together, was it ever on your radar, like, I'm gonna have to worry about this guy, like, you know, having his head bashed in with whatever and cut open with light tubes? And I mean, was that on your radar?
I mean, I thought he would never get fired. He had been with WWE for, like, what, when I met him, 12 years or something. Like, I never ever saw him getting fired coming. So when he got fired, I cried. He didn't. He was like, yeah, he was like almost like a sense of relief. And I was like, whoa, what's gonna happen? Oh, like, our life is ending. And then I realized, like, oh shit, he's okay. Like, and so, I mean, I never saw any of this coming. If you said, like, can you imagine him at Impact? Never. Right. Can you imagine him with fucking light tubes and gashes all over him? Never. Can you imagine him starting a podcast and doing live podcast tours instead of like touring the world as a WWE superstar? Never. It was never on my radar. I was with a WWE superstar from start to finish. I never even thought about it. I knew that I could have done that, and I had to do that, and I struggled through the indies, and I saw that for myself, but for some reason, never for him, because I never knew him any other way.
Yeah, that, I think that Renee mentioned in our interview that was sort of the hardest adjustment, to go from like the safe, like having a partner that was in the safe world of WWE sports entertainment, to crazy. Oh my gosh.
To week to week paychecks, right? Like, if we don't work on the weekend, we don't make that money. There's no other income, right? Like, and we are not accustomed to real jobs anymore. I could not go back to doing what I used to do. I couldn't go back to bartending. I couldn't go back to like my like sense of entitlement, right? Like, because we're performers now, and I'm like, oh, I couldn't imagine like doing that. And I did it for so long, but that's like the old me. So kind of like going from a stable job and paycheck to this unknown world is crazy for Matt, not for me, because I already had to do it for so long.
Right. So you did not spend a great deal of time in WWE, but it was long enough for you to be away from that world that you talked about being accustomed to, the indie circuit, and your time with Impact and all of this. But even as brief as your time there was, the world outside of there has seemed to change dramatically for women's wrestling. So talk to me about that shift in landscape from the time that you left that world to the time you returned to it.
It kind of started to shift when I first started training 7 years ago. That's when I started to see a shift. That's when we saw that hashtag give divas a chance start to happen, was around like 2014. So I started to see a shift there. And then I saw a major shift when I did All In. When I did All In, it was like we were at what I thought was the peak of women's wrestling. I mean, little did I know. Now I feel like now we're at the peak, and there really is no peak. Like, it's just the wrestling gets better, the opportunities, there's endless opportunities. You cannot say that women haven't done this or that, or they could never, because now we're seeing women main event WrestleMania. The ceiling has been broken. There's absolutely no limits. And it's really cool that I am fired at this time, and so I'm able to do all this. I'm able to be a part of this, because had they kept me another 2 years, who knows? Had they fired me, had they never hired me, like, who knows? But I've been able to watch it build my name a little bit and hone my craft in the performance center. And now, hey, you kicked me to the curb, but like, I have a million opportunities that I'm able to capitalize on, and we never had these opportunities before.
And one of the things that I know that the idea of it is so specific to AEW, but like we talk about the forbidden door, and what that to me means is like we're starting to see talent just freely float from one company to the next without that expectation of exclusivity. Like, I'm looking at you and you're on Ring of Honor, you're on Impact, you're at the NWA. So first, let's talk about the Ring of Honor, because Ring of Honor is really focusing, with Maria Kanellis at the helm, a lot on the development of their women and the championship there. So tell me about what's going on there, what you're observing and being part of.
So when I first was released, I made a list for myself of the companies that I wanted to go to, and I was not going to allow those companies to tell me that I couldn't do all three at once. And I thought I would have to fight for that, and I did not at all. They were all, Ring of Honor, NWA, and Impact was so welcoming to, like, okay, you need to explore your options, and I totally get that. And so Ring of Honor being one of the major things on my bucket list that I was never able to do before WWE. So now going there, I really didn't have any expectations, but they've blown my mind with what they're doing. I mean, I already knew Maria was determined. I already knew that Maria pushes for females, and she always has. She seriously helped me when I worked at Impact, and really like helped me develop my character and a sense of who I was. So now to be able to go to Ring of Honor, work with her again, and she's at the forefront of all this. It's amazing, but not surprising, because this is the type of woman that she is. She now is in a position where she wants to elevate everyone around her, and she's doing it. And I mean, I just wrestled at the ECW arena, and the crowd is amazing. Everyone backstage is amazing. They're all helpful. It's just like, it's got to be one of the most positive environments that I've ever worked in. And I'm loving it. Like, I look forward to going there.
It really feels like Ring of Honor has taken a concerted effort to make this women's division, and especially since Ring of Honor is so well known for its wrestling quality, right? Like the type of wrestling, it feels like a great opportunity for women to showcase that.
And there's so many amazing women in this tournament. Like, I realized that there's a lot of amazing women signed to NXT, WWE, and AEW. And I already knew there was great talent at Impact, and that's why I was excited to go back. But I forgot how many unsigned talent there are just in the world that Ring of Honor was able to pick up and use for this tournament. I sat and did commentary for the entire tournament, and sometimes I seriously had to like pick my job. Like, oh my God, this wrestling is amazing. Like, all these women are so freaking good. How do people not know this name and this name? How did I not know this name? It's mind blowing. So it's a really, really cool time right now for free agents to come and be on TV and prove why they deserve to be TV stars.
You talk about how well, like how familiar obviously you are with Impact as a former champion there in the Knockouts division. But the locker room, and there's been a lot of turnover in that locker room. I mean, there's certainly some stalwarts who've been there since you were there before, but talk to me about what it's like to return to that. It's kind of a homecoming for you, and to see all these new faces, and tell us some of the people that you are like really looking forward to see evolve there.
I think the amazing thing about Impact is that even though I went back to a different locker room, and it wasn't fully a different locker room, like we're still seeing Gail, Madison, Alicia, like, you know, Rosemary, but it is a lot of new girls, but all those new girls I worked with on the independent scene. So they're finally getting, you know, their time to shine. And that's also amazing too, because I know them, I've worked with them, we've been on Shimmer together and traveled all over the world. And actually same with the guys. Like I walked into the locker room and I'm like, I know everybody. It's like an indie reunion at Impact and everyone's finally getting their time. And it's awesome. And I'm really excited to work people like Jordan Grace. I mean, I was really excited to work Tennille. I'm very excited to work Jordan Grace. Of course, I'm excited to work my best friend, Deanna. There is so many people coming in and out of Impact that, again, the opportunities are endless there. I could really work anywhere. We could see Ruby, we could see the Iconics, we could see any of the females that are being released from WWE come through Impact doors at any moment. And that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, I mean, you were among a crop of really talented, very popular women, many of whom actually got a far greater opportunity to like showcase for us than you did, unfortunately. But people like Ruby Soho and the Iconics, even Mercedes Martinez and Santana Garrett, like, you know, where do you see these women falling into the landscape of what's happening in women's wrestling right now?
Well, I wish I could guess, but I think that that's the crazy thing is that they probably are doing what I tried to do and surprise you guys. And, you know, nobody thought I was going to show up at Ring of Honor. And then when I did show up and I said I couldn't wrestle, you know, I surprised you guys by wrestling the next weekend at Slammiversary. So I'm sure that if they are smart, they're going to surprise us with whatever they decide to do. But I really imagine that some of these girls have to end up at AEW. It would be a travesty if they didn't, because, you know, AEW can totally gain from those faces. We all love to watch them. We all know them. We know they're great workers. It would be insane if some of them didn't end up there, but I hope and I pray that we get them at NWA, Ring of Honor, or Impact.
So you had mentioned already, and I could not agree more, about sort of like this tremendous opportunity for talent to float to various places. And as we've talked about, we are coming together on Saturday the 28th in St. Louis for Empower. This is such an, it's not only legendary a legend in the making because it's the first ever all women's pay-per-view from NWA, but I think for fans of women's wrestling, we're seeing stars from Ring of Honor, we're seeing stars from Impact and AEW, as well as the NWA, and across like all of these different independent promotions. So talk to us about like the importance of an event like this specifically.
I mean, I just think that this is huge because we've seen it done on the grandest scale, which is WWE. Were they kind of forced to do it? A little bit. Did we all force them by making a hashtag and tweeting? Kind of. But other than that, we've only seen it done on such a small scale on the independent scene. And there's a huge group, like a huge fandom of people that come together to support Shimmer and Shine. So the fact that now it's being done, it's not forced. We are all coming together. We're joining forces as this world outside of WWE to put on the best possible all women's show that we possibly can, and possibly the best all women's show ever to ever happen. Like, that's massive. And we're all going to be part of history when this is done, you know, at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. when this is over, like we can all go to sleep at night proud of the show that we put on, kind of the way that I felt after All In. This show is being put on purely because the wrestlers love wrestling and the fans love watching it. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't because we have $1 million in the bank. But like, this is because you guys want it and we want it, and we're all coming together to do it. And that's how I felt wrestling it all in. When I walked out there, I felt like this like rush of emotion that I've never had. Like all these people are cheering for me, not because like a big company put my face on a billboard, but because they're here to see me. They love me. They follow me. They know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like nobody, no machine made me. I did this myself, and they're allowing that. And that's what this is going to be. That's what Empower is going to be. It's all these self-made women coming together to put on an unbelievable show. And I think that the world is going to be blown away by what we come up with when we're given this pedestal.
Yeah. By the way, viewers, I know in the comment section you're already going to be going in about the fact that I'm not a woman. You're right. I'm definitely not a woman.
Oh, come on.
No, but I'm also not the in-ring competitor. You know what I mean? Somebody was like, "Oh, this is supposed to be an all-women's." I'm a manager.
And you know what? Guess what? We're allowed to have men in an all-women's pay-per-view. And guess what? Behind the scenes, there's a lot of powerful men that have our backs. There really are. All these people that are putting it, like, you know, we have Gail, we have Medusa, we have Mickey, strong, amazing women. We also have Billy. We also have Pat Kenny. All these people, and you know, at WWE, we had Fit Finlay. Like, we have all these amazing men behind us, and as women, we're also not afraid to have that. And if I could come out with Matt, I probably would. I don't think that this needs to be exclusive. I just think that women want a chance to shine, and this is what it is, whether we have men involved or not.
Yeah, I mean, also all the in-ring competitors are women. You know what I mean? Like every single one of them, top to bottom. And we're going to see new NWA tag team champions crowned. I'm really excited about that. I love tag team wrestling, and this is like the first team of NWA tag team titles in for almost 40 years, 37 years since they went to WWF. So
it's going to be huge.
You are going into the 10 women invitational, which is the main event of the show. Let's say that you walk out as the winner. And what does it mean for you to go on and compete the next night at NWA 73, potentially for the NWA Women's World Title?
I mean, it's really like I'm sweating now that you just brought that up. It's like a nerve-wracking thought. I'm trying to focus on Saturday night and not think about the potential of then being able to go on and have a shot at that title. I'm focusing on the fact that I was trusted to be in the main event. Someone had enough faith in me to think that I deserved that spot in the main event and deserved a spot to potentially go on to challenge either Layla or Camille. Like, I mean, that's huge. And either way, the only thing that I can do is try my best, you know, like the only thing I can do is bring the best version of me to Empower, hope that that's enough. And if it is enough, bring the best version of me on Sunday night. But at this point, it's a toss-up. Every single person that's in the ring with me has an equal shot at winning this match. And to try to kind of figure out who has the best shot would be ridiculous. Like, look at all these girls and where they've been and the resume that they have. It's everyone's equal. So it's like, yeah, it's very, very nerve-wracking. But I just want to make sure that I put on my best performance for me and for every single person that bought a ticket to support us.
Well, that I think is going to, I think that's, do you have anything else to add? Because I think that was a great way to cap this.
I mean, I really think that you can't get any better than that. And if you're watching this and you haven't got a ticket, you got to go hit up NWA on Twitter and grab yourself the ticket, because it's going to be legendary and you don't want to miss it.
And if you can't be there live and in person in St. Louis at the Coruscant Ballroom, find us on Fight TV. I mean, it's that simple. Fight TV, buy the bundle. Like, get the NWA Empower on Saturday and NWA 73.
I'm going to do that to watch. If I don't win the match on Saturday, I will be watching on Sunday. That's for sure.
Yeah, like, absolutely. So Chelsea, thank you so much. Putting our professional like rivalry potentially that'll develop on Saturday aside. I'm very excited to be, you know, watching you and all of these other amazing women make history and to be present and part of that. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.